Hey everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga and welcome to 5 Minutes With. This week I am chatting with Nicola Henry Taylor. She is the owner of Henry Taylor Law Firm and the Director of Diversity at Duquesne University School of Law. And I'm also joined with Lisa Middleman. She is a career public defender and a criminal defense attorney. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So I just want to dive right in. So both of you are vying for seats on the Allegheny Court of Common Pleas. And I have to say it like 20 times over and over because it's such a mouthful. But I think it's great that both of you felt comfortable enough to chat with me together. And I'm so excited. So I just want to understand first, before we dive into the issues, and I'll start with you, Nicola, what inspired you to get into law?
Well, for me, it wasn't necessarily an inspiration, it was being stubborn. When I was in fifth grade growing up in Brooklyn, New York, our teachers told us we had to decide what we wanted to do when we grew up. And as it came to my table and my turn, I had to choose in my mind between being a doctor and being a lawyer. And it became clear to me right before I had to decide, there's no way I could be a doctor. I blindly decided I wanted to be a lawyer, and I'm so happy I did. I focused on it, and then I went to John Jay High School for Criminal Justice, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. And what about you, Lisa? What inspired you to get into this work?
Well, it's interesting because I have my father's a lawyer,
Mm.
and but he was an old time kind of lawyer who had a lot of different cases. He didn't specialize in anything, but I do remember him coming home one day with a dining room set for my mother because we had never had one, and it was a table and a break front, and he called it, I think it was the Willie Harris dining room set, and it was named after the man whose fee had actually paid for it. And so he told me the story of how this man had been accused of murder, and my dad had tried the case and won the case. And just the way my father talked about Mr. Harris, and how he was able to actually make an incredible impact on his life and change his life, that was it for me right there.
It's
That is
amazing.
a great story.
Yeah, and there's so many of you running for these 9 open seats, 39 people to be exact. It's such a crowded field. So, having said all that, what are your specific or unique qualifications that set you apart from the crowd? And Lisa, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm probably the only person who's running who's done as many death penalty cases as I have. I've been a lawyer since 1987, and I started doing death penalty cases when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 28. So it's been a long road for me. But one of the most unique things about them is that when you're preparing for sentencing on a death case, you delve into your client's entire history. I even get birth records, from my client's mother. So I think I've had a unique opportunity to really see the effects of poverty, joblessness, homelessness, trauma on an individual, basically from birth all the way up until the time that they commit a horrible crime. So I think it's my perspective that sort of puts me apart from the rest.
What about you, Nicola?
So, with respect to me, there are not many candidates in this race that have actually litigated and been in court in every single division. I worked for two Court of Common Pleas president judges, one in Clarion and one in Butler. So I got to see what a good judge does from the bench. I also was a former prosecutor. I got to and when I did that, I was the mental health court prosecutor. I also did a drug court program with Judge White, who's now passed away. Right now, my heart and my love is in family division, and and that's where a lot of new judges go. And family division pulls together so many areas, and you're dealing with real estate issues at times, you're dealing with tax issues at times, you're certainly dealing with very important issues such as mental health, drug and alcohol, and familial problems. And so I think having that diversity and range of experience and being in court on a regular basis sets me apart.
And Nicola, to sort of embellish on that point, so when we're talking about family court, when we're talking about the different areas that you would be covering as a judge in this position, what is a misconception that you'd like to clear up about this role?
Well, I think the misconceptions are that judges just need to sit there and wait and see what happens and call, as some lawyers, old time lawyers would say, the balls and strikes. But I think what we found out being on this campaign trail, and many of us are echoing in our life experiences, that judges have to be empathetic, and their lived experience allows them to do that. So those of us like me, who's an immigrant, and I have immigrant clients, and I know what it's like to have that work ethic, and how your life might be different because of your path. And some of us who may have grown up with a loved one that's mentally ill, those judges who have had different experiences, they may bring a different view to the bench. Not all, one of the misconceptions is all judges do is sit there, but a good example of a servant leader who uses her lived experience is our president judge, Judge Kim Berkeley Clark. So I would like to see our new bench become more of those servant leaders who are engaged and a part of the discussion of intentionally being more inclusive and being more equitable.
Lisa, when you hear the word servant leader as it pertains to the bench, what does that mean to you? Does that resonate? Do you feel that you would want to portray servant leadership as well in that role?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Nicola Henry Taylor, because she truly is a servant leader. I have nothing but respect for all of Nicola's accomplishments and her judgment. I think that it's incumbent upon everybody who's in the courts to be a servant leader. You know, for so long, we've sort of elected these folks that just maintain the status quo. And I'm sure that it wouldn't surprise you how many times, you know, when we're trying to do something different or come up with an innovative sentencing option for one of our clients, we hear, that's not how we've always done it. You know, so we have this opportunity with 9 seats open on the bench and a lot of progressive people running to change that mindset. Well, just because we've never done it before doesn't mean we can't start doing it now. We've had years and years of stagnation, locking people up and crushing lives. When you crush an individual, you crush their family, and we've ruined whole communities. So we need to change our perspective, make it more people-centered and more community-centered. And I think that's what a servant leader does. They listen to communities, and they listen to foundations, and they listen to the science and the experts out there, and they take all of that in and use that to lead a new path, you know, so that we can all live in a safer, more equitable society.
Right. And Natalie, not to, I know you have your questions, but there, along those lines, Lisa has this wonderful idea of using social workers in the courtroom. So I don't know if we have time to talk about that, because I'd love to see that implemented.
Well, as a former social worker, that really speaks near and dear to my heart as well. And I do wish we had more time to discuss all of these topics. But as we wrap this 5 minutes up, what I'd really like both of you to comment on is this historic moment. And I have to say, it's just so wonderful and refreshing to have both women like you, who are technically opponents, but speaking so highly of one another. And this is a real historic moment, not just for the county, but I think there's a lot of women here that could really make a move and make a mark in this election. Would either of you or both of you like to just comment on that?
So I will speak of it on the intersectionality of being a woman of color. Sadly, in the history of Allegheny County, I believe it started in the 1700s, that we have only had 4 Black women elected. And obviously we want qualified people. And I believe that I'm one of those qualified people, and Lisa is one of those qualified people, but we do not have enough diversity on the bench. We need to have diversity in many ways, and also have that experience to be reflected our population that comes before the court. So I'd love to hear what Lisa would have to say along those lines as well.
Well, I think that, you know, it is historic because there are so many people running, and it is an incredible opportunity to change, you know, the mindset, as I was talking about before. I think that when you seek out new experiences and you seek out people who have varying life experiences and varying professional experiences, you really are sharpening your own, you know, critical thinking, and you're gaining a much greater insight and perspective and knowledge about the world in general. And I think that that's our great opportunity here, is to expand not only knowledge, but to expand our willingness to do different things, to come up with different solutions, to make a change, because we're losing right now.
Mhm.
So we need to elect the people that are going to bring us forward into the future of winning.
The diversity of thought brings better results. And I love what you're saying. So, I'd love to see us both on the bench.
Well, I appreciate you both so much for spending just a little bit more than 5 minutes with me. And I hope everyone will get out and vote this primary. It's an important, historic moment, May 18th. So I wish you both the very best of luck and thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us. Bye-bye.
Bye.